Welcome to Wine Soundtrack South Africa. Listen to the passion with which producers narrate their winery and their world. In 30 answers, discover their stories, personalities, and passions.
Hello, friends and listeners of Wine Soundtrack. This is Morena Kalo, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by Bruwer Raats from Raats Family Vineyards. Bruwer, a warm welcome in joining us on Wine Soundtrack. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Morena, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. And yes, I was born here in South Africa, and after I finished school, I studied at Elsenburg Agricultural College. I finished there in 95, and then I pretty much wanted to go and work in 4 places in the world. The one was Bordeaux, in France, to learn about classical winemaking. The other place was Napa Valley. Of course, I've got the research and money to spend on that. Great universities, so it was very technical, and they were great at that. And then I wanted to go and work in Germany, which I did, to learn how to run a place properly and get that sort of systems and things flowing, and which was a wonderful experience. And then I thought one more place I want to go and work was Italy, to learn how to enjoy the whole lot. So I ended up running a small little cellar in Tuscany near Grape and Chianti, with a guy called Santino, and he couldn't speak a word of English, and I couldn't speak a word of Italian. So I spoke Afrikaans, he spoke Italian, and we did the harvest together. After that, I returned to South Africa. I had a very clear idea of how I want to move forward in the wine industry and what I wanted to create. So that's sort of how I got to how I started in the wine industry.
That is such a wonderful philosophy of the various different places to work to get different insights and set you up in different ways for your career with your future in wine. I really like that, especially the German part. That's brilliant. So tell me, where is your farm located?
So we situated in Stellenbosch. And it's very interesting is that I'm going to answer this question in a very particular way, is that after 94, our industry were really trying to get back and put our hands up in the world to say, hey, South Africa produced wine. We all know we did, but because we were isolated selling our wines to the rest of the world, we really had to make an effort to remind people and to educate people that South Africa makes wine, and we actually have been done it for a long time. And then so on my labels it just said South Africa. Then in 2010 we said, okay, everybody knows South Africa is back in the international wine world. We put Stellenbosch, South Africa there because South Africa is divided up into Stellenbosch, Paarl, Swartland, Walker Bay, so there was different regions that produce wine. And what we started doing now in 2022, we say Polka Dry Hills Stellenbosch, because Stellenbosch is divided up into 9 different wards, and each ward in Stellenbosch has a unique terroir or a climate or something that differentiates it slightly from the ward next to it or other wards in Stellenbosch. So to give a short answer, I'm in Polka Dry Hills, which is the smallest ward in Stellenbosch and one of the newest. And we only about 6 producers here. And I'm very proud to say that I was one of the founder members. Myself, Raats Family Wines, the Turin, Reineke and Saxenberg came together in 2007 and applied to have Polka Dry Hills declared as a ward, which we got very quickly, because what makes us so unique is that we have this unique decomposed dolomite granite soils. Most wards in Stellenbosch is more sandstone, more higher mountains, And so we have a certain uniqueness and our proximity to the coast. We're about 7 kilometers from False Bay and about 17 kilometers from Table Bay. So we're quite in the middle of the Cape Peninsula and close to the sea. So those are the things that makes us quite unique. So today I'm very proud to say I'm Polka Dry Hills Ward Stellenbosch.
I like it. It's hard work to get ward declared like that, but well worth it, I certainly think. So tell me, how many hectares do you have under vine?
So Raats Family Wines, my parents were not farmers, although my grandparents and before them were all farmers. But when I started off, I really, when I started Raats in 2000, I didn't have land. To be quite honest, I didn't have money either. It was just a dream and a passion that I wanted to create something. And so I only bought the farm much later in 2004, although my grapes were coming from mainly Polka Dry Hills, which wasn't a ward then, of course. So we farm about 35 hectares, and it's a combination of our own vineyard. Then we have rented vineyards, which we also farm ourselves. We just rent the land basically with the vineyards on it. And then I started in 2008, I started what I call a joint venture, where we basically buy the vines and we supply it to the farmer. They plant it on their land, and the contract basically is we own the vines and they own the land, and we farm it together. So a joint venture. Very interesting for something like that is that in the past, people rewarded growers per ton. So the price was fixed according to the ton he produced. And that's all incentive to produce volume and not quality. So what we've changed then, and people thought I was crazy when I started this back in 2008, is to pay people per hectare. So then you determine yourself how many tons per hectare you want. And then we could design each wine. If we had a wine which is unwooded at a low price point, we can have 10 tons a hectare. If we had a vineyard or a wine that was of high quality, then we only had 4 or 5 tons per hectare. So that have definitely changed the incentive from the farmer's point of view to produce whatever the winemaker wants and the quality level.
And how many bottles of wine or cases of wine do you tend to produce annually?
We produce about 10,000 cases. So we're a very small producer, and of course everything is Chenin Blanc or Cabernet Franc. And so we're very small, and we're a family business. I mean, Raats Family Wines, I farm with and make wine with my cousin Gavin Bruwer Slubbert. He's luckily got a name, Gavin. I only got 2 surnames strung together, so technically I'm nameless. So they just called me Bruwer Raats, which is my mother's maiden surname. And then also my younger son, Sam, who's 21 years old, also started. He's still a student, but he started working in the cellar, studying online. And, we're a small family business. And I think what makes family business so strong is everybody work for a common goal. They say blood is thicker than water, and that is definitely the case. So we've got a common goal, and we all strive to make world-class Chenin Blanc and Cabernet Franc.
You have mentioned now Chenin Blanc and Cabernet Franc. That is obviously really your focus. Why those 2 varieties? Where did that start?
I think Chenin Blanc probably had a more sort of a national interest as well, in the sense that, we've been growing Chenin Blanc for over 350 years in South Africa. And, after my travels internationally, I realized that I wanted to show the world what makes South Africa unique. I don't want to show the world what makes us similar. And One of the white wine varieties that nobody have really claimed was Chenin Blanc. And although it comes from the Loire Valley, they've always called it according to their region, Samoa or Anjou Blanc or a Savennier. They never put Chenin Blanc on the label. So we had a very unique opportunity to take a variety that nobody have made their own, like Argentina did with Malbec or New Zealand did with Sauvignon Blanc, and made it their own. And we had 53% of the world's planting. And I liked Chenin Blanc because when I went to the Loire and I drank the Chenins there, it was fantastic. Yet when I came back to South Africa, it was always off-dry, semi-sweet, really sort of table wine. Nobody really took Chenin Blanc serious. And my thought was that, if you take a thoroughbred horse and you train it like a donkey, don't complain if you don't win the race. So we had a thoroughbred horse, but the problem was Chenin Blanc is that the way we treated it. So if you take Chenin Blanc and you treat it with the same care and attention that you've treated Chardonnay or Sauvignon Blanc, you can have the same result. 22 years later today, nobody argues with me anymore. But I must say, in 2000, when I started off, people thought I was crazy to become a Chenin Blanc specialist. They really thought I wasn't going to make it one day. Cabernet Franc, I think it was very personal. I worked at Blanc, a very old farm, actually one of the oldest farms in South Africa, and they had Cabernet Franc. And after the harvest, I went to the cellar master and said, I believe this wine is the best wine in the cellar, this Cabernet Franc. He said, Bruwer, I totally agree with you. And I said, well, why don't we bottle it on its own? And he said, well, people see Cabernet Franc as a blending variety. And, the name Cabernet Franc, people think it's bitter, so it's never going to work. And I just thought to myself, one day I'm going to make Cabernet Franc because I just love it. I just love the variety. You must be careful what you wish for, because 5 years later I started Raats Family Wines and I made Cabernet Franc. And then I realized why so very few people in the world make Cabernet Franc as a single variety, because it's extremely challenging and difficult and very site and soil specific. So, but again, 22 years later, South Africa, when I started off, you could count the people that produce Cabernet Franc on their own on your one hand. Today, there's over 80 people that produce Cabernet Franc as a single variety. So, things have changed a lot. But and that's wonderful. I was always hoping for that because, the way I look at it is that, the rising tide lifts all boats in the harbour. So the more people that make great Chenin Blanc and the more people that make great Cabernet Franc, our whole industry will benefit from that, including myself and all the other producers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I love the philosophy of doing something and being focused and doing it really well. It's similar to going to a restaurant and you've got pages and pages and pages of items on the menu that you can choose from, and they might do it a decent job of it, but they're never going to be fantastic or perfect those dishes because it's just such a wide focus. And what you're doing here with Chenin and Cab Franc is really something wonderful. So yeah, well done for that. So I know that you certainly went to school in the Free State, like myself. This wine is not a big thing in the Free State at all. So where did your passion and your love for wine come from?
As a point of reference, the Free State is sort of in the central of South Africa, and there's not a lot of water either. But I was actually born here in the Cape, in Caledon, which is not far from here, and my parents were living in a little Claremont. And I grew up in the Eastern Cape. My dad was a headmaster, and so we moved wherever he was the headmaster of a school. So I basically grew up in the Eastern Cape. But I then, for high school, I then went to Grey College because my brother was there, and he was an excellent rugby player. And whenever they came and I saw them play sport, or I saw them, I just thought, wow, these people are impressive. So I thought to myself, I want to be like these guys. And of course, Grey College in Bloemfontein in the Free State. It's, I think, the third oldest school in South Africa, and I think has produced some of the most prominent people in the history of South Africa. So, and I wasn't disappointed from that point of view. So I only went to high school in the Free State. That's my connection. And that's, I think, one of the best decisions I took in my life. So where my passion for wine, I think, started is that I never grew up with any idea that I would become a winemaker, but after I finished school and after I finished my national service, we had to do in those days, I worked on a wine farm here in Stellenbosch called Stellenbosch, and it was just sort of, I wanted to go and backpack overseas, and I was waiting for my mate, so there was 3 months I had to sort of do something, and my brother said to me, he was a student here, his friend is farming and I can come help them with the harvest. And the father, Wali Ru, actually came to me. He was already retired, and he said to me, what do you want to do with your life one day? And I said, well, I'm not sure, you know. I was 21 years old, and I said, I like flavors, maybe a chef, but I'm really not sure. And he said, you should hop on with this neat load of grapes and go to the cellar and go and see what they do. Have you done that? I said, no. So the next day he came to me and said, did you do it? I said, yes, I did. And I said, so what did you find? And I said, well, you know, I taste the grapes here when we harvest it. They squeeze the juice out. They ferment it, goes through 3 processes, and then there's a direct correlation between the flavors in the grapes and the final product in the wine, although it went through 3 processes. That's amazing. He said, you're going to become a winemaker one day. I was very cocky in those. I said, well, Wally, I don't want to be rude, but I think you're bloody crazy. So, and he was not. I applied at Elsenburg and went overseas, and you know, the rest is history. So, you know, and I was a terrible student at school, actually. I couldn't keep my attention very long for too long, and I would wander off. But I must say, when I went to study wine, I was a fantastic student because it interested me, and there were so many things that you didn't know, and that bothered me. So, and today, after almost 30 years in the wine industry, there's still a lot of stuff I don't know, and I'm trying to figure out. So, and I think that's why I was so drawn to it, because there's so much that I didn't know. And the more I seemed to learn about winemaking and terroir and soil and vineyard, the less I thought I knew. So, and I think that's why very few people that have gone in the wine industry actually leave it.
And as you say, there's so much more to learn, and it's one of those industries that's constantly evolving. There will always be more to learn. You'll never get bored and know it all. So that's really, for me, what's one of the most charming things about what we do. So you've traveled the world abroad quite extensively. Are there any wines that you might have tasted along the way that have really just kind of left a mark on your memory, that have really stood out as something that's kind of created this moment of epiphany in your life?
I've got 3 wines. The one is Haute Briot 2006. I tasted that, and still today I remember that wine very well. As far as a Bordeaux blend is concerned. And then for my 40th birthday, I had the DRC Grand Echaugeau 2005, and for my 50th I had the Echaugeau 2015. And I must say both those wines, I got it from my dear friend in London, Greg Sherwood, and you know, I couldn't actually afford it, but I took the dip. But anyway, those 3 wines really stood out for me, and I must say, from a white point of view, I think that Coulis de Syrah from Nicolas Joly was also, for me, 2001 vintage, was just something that grabbed, and that's of course a Chenin Blanc. You know, when you drink something that's exceptional, is when you think about it, you can still remember what it tastes like. And I must say, I can, in all 4 of these wines, I can exactly remember. If you give me a pen and paper, I can still tell you exactly. I can do the tasting notes again, because it's something that sticks in your mind. So I suppose there is some great, I love Chenin Blanc as well, and I've done a vertical where I compared it from 2001 to 2005 against my Cabernet Franc, just to sort of, give myself and people around me perspective on where we stand with Cabernet Franc in South Africa. And of course, in the Loire Valley, Clos Rejard is just, that's sort of the monumental producer as far as Cabernet Franc is concerned from the Loire Valley. Their wines in general is fantastic as well.
Some real treats in that, in those wines that you've just mentioned, that's for sure. So let's chat about your wines. Which of your wines is the most expensive at the moment? What is it, and what does it cost?
When you say expensive, I think that's wine as such, is one of the things that you pay for what you get, and if you look at the production cost of as I mentioned earlier, we don't just go and make a price because we think that's what it can sell for. We have designed everything according to the yield of the wine. So, when you look at starting off with our original Chenin Blanc, our unoaked Chenin starts off at 150 Rand, and then you go up to our Eden high density single vineyard, which just under 1,000, but then again, the one you get 10 tons a hectare, the other one you get 2.5 tons a hectare. So, and you farm, costs you the same to farm that hectare of vineyard, So, I think that the cost of the wine is really determined by the production cost and the yield of the vineyard. And obviously, do you put it in barrel? How long do you keep it back before you release it on the market? The packaging, there's so many things that do that. But from Chenin Blanc point of view, we have the original Chenin, we've got the old vine Chenin, and the Eden high density single vineyard. And we basically mirror that in Cabernet Franc. We have the Dolomite Cabernet Franc, which comes in at about 200 Rand. You have the Family Cab Franc, it's about 700, and then you've got the Eden high density single vineyard Cabernet Franc, which is 2,500, but we only produced 400 bottles of it. It's 0.2 hectares, So, and then of course our seventh wonder wine is the Jasper, which is a Cabernet Franc Malbec dominated red blend, which is so unique because nobody in South Africa blends Cabernet Franc and Malbec in such high percentages. And most of the wine writers that I talk to and see, I think they battle to name anybody in the world that blend Cab Franc and Malbec in such high percentages. So it's quite a unique little wine from our point of view, South Africa, and from the world point of view. But the Jasper is then sort of our Cabernet Franc dominated border style blend. And then we also got Mvemve Raats, which is a project between myself and Mzokona, which is a border style blend, which we don't necessarily produce every year, only when it's exceptional. So there's that, but we only make this one wine, so that's a sort of a project on its own.
So I know it's really unfair to ask any winemaker which is his favorite child, but is there one of your wines currently in cellar that whenever you have some from the thief, it excites you, it sends shivers and tingles down your spine? Is there one of those that just kind of makes you all giddy and excited?
There's two. I have two prom queens.
Two prom queens.
The one is the MR De Compostella 09. I just don't have enough of it. And the other one is the Eden high density single vineyard Cabernet Franc 2015. Those are just wines that just, you almost get goosebumps before you open the bottle. And from my own. And I'll have to add the Eden high density single vineyard Chenin Blanc 2018 as well. I must say that that's also something I really look forward to. So I actually have 3.
Okay, so as a consumer, what do you enjoy drinking? Red, white, bubbles? What kind of is something that if you went out, you would say, okay, let's have some of this?
I'm from that point of view. Because I've been to most places and I've worked in most places. So I drink from Aseptico, from Santorini, straight up to Burgundy and Bordeaux. From around the world. So I've got a lot more. Probably 2/3 of all my wines in my cellar are foreign. So I drink very wide, but if I have to be specific, I probably enjoy Chenin Blanc from the Loire, Cab Franc from the Loire, and Bordeaux. Those are probably my 3. What I have most of, that's probably what I drink most.
Okay, so do you have a hangover cure that you can share with us?
Not in particular. Just drink a lot of water before you go to bed.
That one. Okay, so imagine this. Here where we're sitting right now, there's a beautiful, I want to set the scene for our listeners. There's a beautiful little dam with little ducks swimming on it. It's really gorgeous. There's a pool outside, and we've got some stunning views all the way out to False Bay. But just in front here, a UFO lands. It's filled with aliens, and they are thirsty. They've just been on a very long journey to Earth, and they're thirsty. What are you going to pour for them?
Immediately. When they get off, they're going to get Raats Original, Chenin Blanc, and then once they relax, when they agree that they would like to come for a braai, we will start off with the Dolomite Cabernet Franc, just so you have the transgression from white to red, and then when they sit down to eat this braai, they're definitely going to get Jasper.
Sure. Can I join these aliens? It sounds like an amazing experience. Okay, so when you were a little boy, what did you want to be?
When I was a little boy, what I want to be? I probably wanted to be a general in the army. I'm always fascinated by history and by wars that were fought over the centuries. I must say that sort of. So I wanted to be a general.
That's pretty cool. I like that answer. I can see it as well. I can see you in your regalia. Okay, when you're not working, how do you spend your free time, Bruwer?
With my goldies. Oh. I've got 2 goldies, and I just love them. They follow me everywhere. So now I've got to reach back in a Jackie as well. But so I honestly, you travel so much, and I almost just love it being on the farm. Just shifting the water, pruning a tree, browing on the stoep. If that aliens take me on that ship that you mentioned, and they say, Bruwer, we're going to buy you now after this wonderful Chenin and Cabernet Franc and Jasper Red Blend that you gave us. We'll buy you any place on earth. Where do you want to go? I'll say, just leave me right here in Polkadrey. I love it here. I'm happy here. I don't want to go anywhere. I just love spending time right here on my little farm. And my farm is called Eden, and I didn't name it, but it was beforehand. But I love the name, and there's so many trees here, and we've planted some more, and we're going to plant some more in the future. We started with spekboom, the areas that are open between the vineyard, so we really try to sort of let it live up to its name. So, I'm very simple. I'm a bloody farmer, man. I'm very simple.
Nothing wrong with being simple at all. It's the small things in life that we sometimes forget to appreciate most. So, are you into music at all? Any specific music genres or artists that you particularly enjoy listening to?
Very much so. I love, I must say my favorite band in the world is still U2, but I suppose that's the era I come from. But I just love U2. I've always have. First time I hear them, and still today, it's just for me, whatever U2 produce, give me goosebumps. I do like classical music, and my dad always played it, and I used to hate it, and then I realized at one stage in my life I actually miss it a lot, and when I reintroduced myself to it, I enjoyed it immensely. But particular Mozart, Puccini, Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, so I do listen to that here on the farm sometimes when I put the music loud and there's not too many people I bother. And then, sort of, there's so much, but I think those are probably, my go-to. That's things that sort of I really enjoy. But I still have a soft spot for music from the 80s and 90s, Alphaville or, Pet Shop Boys. There's certain of these things which probably sounds a bit corny, but those things are what we grew up with, and I must say I still enjoy listening to it.
Totally, gotta love that stuff. What would you say was the best piece of advice you've ever received?
That came from a very intelligent woman, and I think we all love her all, is Madeleine Stantworth from Sweden. She said to me, right in the beginning, I just bought the farm and I invited her for a braai. And she said to me, Bruwer, never lose touch with your consumer. Never make wine that you go off on your own little trip and your own little mission, and it's not enjoyable to the people that actually drink the wine anymore. She said, keep your feet on the ground. You can do a lot of things, and you can try a lot of new things, and you can be adventurous, and you can be dynamic, and you can be groundbreaking. But always remember is that the wine that you make have to resonate and eventually be enjoyable by the people that buy it and drink it. And because I was probably at that stage so caught up in my own ideas and where I wanted to go that she probably saw that potentially I could lose touch with reality. And I must say that's probably the best advice anybody have given me in the wine industry.
She has a lot of really great insights, Madeleine.
So.
She's a really phenomenal lady. I must
think she's
agree.
Probably one of the most loved people in the wine industry from in South Africa. I think just of who she is and how she come across and that she's so generous with very good advice and never forceful, of course. Very gentle in how she sort of advises you or give you advice.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with that. Definitely. Okay, if you could share a bottle of wine with anyone, alive or dead, who would it be, and what's in the what wine is it?
We will probably go for MR De Compostella 2009, and that would definitely be Albert Einstein. And what I like about him is that he spoke about things that you could not see, and you could not touch, and you could not physically, the metaphysical. And I think wine has got a lot to do with that. And I know I'm sounding a bit dotty now, but I think there's something about wine, because wine becomes personal. Doesn't matter what you say. It's because if you open a bottle of wine for the guests arriving at your house, you're telling something about yourself. You're showing something of the importance. You're showing on what you like. So there's something about wine that can't be touched and can't be felt, but it's definitely there. And I think a guy like him had insight into that and had a better understanding that we probably have. So unfortunately I missed him, but if I could, I would like to drink the MR De Compostella 2009 with Albert Einstein.
That is quite prolific. I must say That's given me some food for thought as well, so thank you for that. Is there a winemaking area in the world that you'd still like to explore?
Yes, very much so. I sadly have never been to South America, and I would love to go, particularly Patagonia. We spoke earlier about it. It was that part of South America was actually joined here at the Cape, with Southern Africa, when it was Gondwana land and they drifted away. And they're starting to produce, well, they have been, but it's sort of a revival of Patagonia almost. So I would definitely like to go and visit South America. There's one place I always wanted to go to that I haven't been to, and I should have. I've been literally everywhere else, but I haven't been there. But that will happen definitely in the next 2 or 3 years.
Very cool. That'll be amazing. Okay, we're almost done, but before we finish up, I'd like to play a little game with you. So I'm going to name 3 varietals, and you need to pair them with a song or an artist or a band or a genre that you feel represents this varietal. Okay. So I'm going to start with Malbec.
Meatloaf. It's Malbec is opulent and it's rich and it's blackberry fruit and it's got this opulence in the mid palate, and Meatloaf is that when he's a big guy, he's on stage, he's got presence, and he's there in your face. So that's why I go with that.
And the dark color, and he's a bit dark, and okay, I got it. Yes, awesome. Okay, Chenin Blanc.
Sure. It will have to be a female artist because Chenin Blanc definitely got that restraint and finesse to it. And I would probably go Celine Dion. And I know it's popular, but, she's got class. She's been there for a long time. She was successful over a wide period of time. And her music got substance. And everybody kind of like her.
Yeah.
So there's a certain status to her as well. So I would say Celine Dion.
That's a very good one. I like that. I can work with that for sure. Of course, we are going to have to finish up with Cabernet Franc.
Oh no. It's a rebel. It's a difficult. It's not easy, and it's a difficult variety. But yes, like if you get it right, it can be. And there's a lot of, obviously, I see passion in Cabernet Franc, and although it's difficult to grow and it's difficult, and Bono came from Ireland, he came from violence, he came from a difficult childhood, and you could see it in his music. He was definitely trying hard, and they weren't recognized, and that's Cabernet Franc. It was always been a struggle and difficult conditions that couldn't grow anyway. So I would go Bono, you to Cabernet Franc. But if you get it right, best in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I can do that. For me, I have to take it even further, and the first song that pops into my mind is Sunday, Bloody Sunday.
Where the streets have no name.
Oh. The one. We can carry on. Bruwer, thank you so much for joining us today. It was an absolute pleasure chatting to you, learning a little bit more about you and your amazing wines. Please will you just tell our listeners where they can find you online, social media, all of those things.
Sure. On Facebook, we just Raats Family Wines. On Instagram as well, Raats Family Wines. And then on Twitter, we Chenin King, and that's not because I'm arrogant. Actually, during the 2010 World Cup, my American agent said, Bruwer, we've registered you on Twitter. This is your handle. And I went back and I said, nobody handles me. I don't have handlers here. I handle myself. I didn't have a clue what Twitter was. And then afterwards, I realized what Twitter is, and that means that's actually my Twitter handling name. But I've never changed it. So my Cape Classics, my US importer, gave me the name, and so I just stuck with it. And people started following me, and so on Twitter, I'm at Chenin King. And then, we are on www.raats.co.za, our website. We do sell online as well. I must say it came in very handy during the pandemic, that we were already set up for that, and that helped us a great deal. And I mean, if you can't find Raats, I always tell people, just Google Raats. There's only one Raats winery in the whole world, so you're going to really struggle not to find us. We open for tastings by appointment only, and that's just because we do it ourselves. And I'm very, I suppose you can call it narrow-minded, but, I'm not a restaurateur, I'm not a hotelier, so we don't have restaurants and accommodation and jungle gyms and all these things on the farm. We cater for wine lovers, people that really come to the Cape that wants to focus on wine, so and that we accommodate. So we open by appointment, and you can just go onto our website, and it's very simple. You send us an email, and also then I know that if someone went through jumping over through the hoops by sending us a mail, replying to it, and confirming that they really want to be here. They come to Raats because they either heard of us, they either know our wine, or they just inquisitive and want to see what it's all about. So funny, we started off in 2000. We were the first ever Chenin Blanc Cabernet Franc specialist in the history of South Africa, and 22 years later, we're still the only Chenin Blanc and Cabernet Franc specialist in South Africa. So nobody have lined up on the lawn to have done what we have done. So we definitely have something unique and different to offer in a South African wine perspective. But on the other hand, saying that we definitely want to do our part in making the South African wine industry recognized, and that we get the sunshine that we deserve in the international market and world, and recognition for this wonderful wine growing region.
I actually have nothing more to add. That's excellent. Bruwer, thanks so much for your time, and thank you, listeners.
Thanks for listening to a new episode of Wine Soundtrack South Africa. For details and updates, visit our website winesoundtrack.com.